but it's an atheist by the name of Matthew Paris,
Mm-hmm.
who grew up in Malawi, Africa. And so he saw the needs of African people, and he also saw the work of Christian missionaries. And this is an atheist now, and he says the following: the difference Christianity offers is a change of people's hearts. It brings a spiritual transformation. The rebirth is real, and the change is good. So even atheists who are familiar with what's going on can recognize the positive outcomes here.
He also contrasted the difference in impact between, say, the United Nations working in those countries and Christian missionaries working in those countries. And I remember one section there, he talks about how the United Nations, very well funded, driving modern vehicles, staying in hotels and so forth, whereas the Christian missionaries were living right in the villages and actually meeting needs with a minimal of funding in comparison to the United Nations. So there you have a difference between what the state is sponsoring and what authentic people who are trying to follow authentic Christianity are doing. And this is what Matthew Paris is singling out. It is people, even though he's an atheist, he recognizes the massive benefit that has accrued to some of these countries. And Malawi is one of the examples of people who were authentic Christians, not controlled or dictated by the state, who were just trying to represent Jesus Christ in those cultures and serve them. That was another thing that Jesus taught. Part of loving your neighbor as yourself is serving them, and serving them in whatever way that needs to further their best interest as far as health and literacy and spiritual well-being and so forth.
Yeah. And that touches on another implication of the research that I've been doing, and that is part of the Enlightenment Project was to try to maintain the values, sort of the core values of Christianity, like all people have equal worth, value, and dignity, and the last shall be first and the first shall be last. But to hang on to those values, but to disconnect them from their moorings, which is the actual Christian doctrines and Christian teaching. I like to call it, they want the fruit without the root. They want the fruit of Christianity without the root of Christianity. But this has been a deliberate attempt to try, and I can understand why too, because there were lots of wars, the 30 Years' War, for example, that people perceived as being a religious war. And so the thought was, we've got to get rid of the religion part of things because that's causing all the problems. This is what their thinking is. But we can hang on to some of the values, right? So you can kind of understand why people go that way. But I think the experiment has been positive and negative. I think it has led to Christian values being spread from the West, or in the West, and from the West to the rest of the world as well. But the more it's disconnected from its moorings, the more it shows Nietzsche to be a prophet. Because Nietzsche predicted that once you get rid of God, once God is really dead, you've lost the foundation for all these Christian values, and you're just not going to be able to hold on to them. And of course, he was quite all right about that, because he hated the Christian values. He thought Christian values are weak. But people have tried to do this, have the fruit without the root, for so long, and the further away you get from the root, the more difficult it is to maintain the Christian values. And at one point, I think we're going to have a discussion here about, okay, if Christianity has really had such positive influence, and as some scholars are saying, the air we breathe really is just the air of Christianity, then how do things get twisted up in such a way that a lot of it seems very anti-Christian now? And so I'll leave that as a question, not one we can answer today.